The final breath, the evening sun sank slowly behind the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Inside a small, quiet house at the edge of the city, an old man named Hassan lay weak on his bed. His breathing had become shallow, his voice almost gone, but his eyes still held a calm light. Around him sat his family, his wife Mariam, his daughter Aisha, and his son Yusuf. The room was filled with silence, except for the soft sound of the ceiling fan and the gentle whisper of Qur'an recitation from a nearby radio. Hassan had always been a man of faith. Every morning before the dawn prayer, he would sit in the courtyard under the neem tree and raise his hands to the sky, thanking Allah for another day. Now, as his final moments approached, his lips moved slowly, repeating the words that had always guided his heart. La ilaha illallah. Mariam wiped the tears from her eyes and whispered softly to him, asking him to remember Allah until the end. The air grew still, and a strange peace filled the room. The family knew that the moment had come. Hassan's last breath escaped like a quiet sigh, and his eyes, once filled with life, became still. Aisha broke down, her hands trembling as she called out her father's name. Yusuf lowered his head, tears falling silently onto the floor. Mariam pressed her forehead against Hassan's hand and whispered a final prayer for his soul. Outside, the evening breeze passed through the courtyard, brushing against the leaves of the neem tree. It was as if the entire house felt the departure of a soul. The imam from the nearby mosque arrived shortly after. His calm voice filled the room as he reminded the family of the verse, "To Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return." Those words, though familiar, carried a new weight now. The men from the neighborhood came to help with the funeral preparations. They gently washed Hassan's body with warm water and rose petals, then wrapped him carefully in a white shroud. His face looked peaceful, as though he were only asleep. Aisha watched silently, her heart breaking but her faith holding her together. She remembered how her father had told her that every soul must taste death, and that what comes after is far more real than this life. The funeral prayer was held in the mosque courtyard. Rows of men stood shoulder to shoulder, their hands raised in supplication. The imam's voice trembled slightly as he led the prayer for the deceased. When it was over, Hassan's body was carried to the graveyard. The setting sun cast long shadows as the men lowered him into the earth. Yusuf threw the first handful of soil onto the grave, whispering a prayer for forgiveness. One by one, the others followed until the grave was filled and leveled. When everyone left, Aisha remained by the grave, her eyes fixed on the mound of earth that now separated her from her father. The wind blew softly, carrying the faint scent of jasmine from a nearby bush. She placed her hands on the grave and prayed for Allah to grant her father peace in his next journey. As she stood, she felt something deep inside her, a calmness she could not explain. That night, the house was quiet. The usual laughter, the sound of the radio, the clinking of Hassan's teacup, all were gone. Mariam sat by the window, her eyes swollen from crying. Aisha read from the Qur'an softly, her voice breaking with emotion. Yusuf sat in the courtyard, staring at the stars. He wondered where his father's soul was now. He had heard stories in sermons about the soul's journey after death, but now, for the first time, he wanted to truly understand what happened next. In that unseen world beyond their reach, Hassan's soul began its journey. He opened his eyes, but it was not the world he had known. Everything around him glowed softly, and there was a strange stillness. He felt no pain, no fear. A light appeared before him, and from it came two majestic beings. Their presence was powerful, but their faces shone with calm. One of them spoke, and the sound was neither loud nor soft. It went straight to his heart. O soul that has left the body, prepare for the questions that every soul must answer. Hassan remembered what he had learned all his life. The angels of the grave, Munkar and Nakir, would come to question him. He felt the earth open around him, but there was no darkness, only the echo of his own heartbeat. The angels asked him, "Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet?" Without hesitation, Hassan replied, "My Lord is Allah, my religion is Islam, my prophet is Muhammad, peace be upon him." The angels looked at each other and smiled. A soft wind blew, and a fragrance unlike anything from the world filled the air. The voice spoke again, "Sleep now in peace, for your faith has guided you well." Hassan felt a warmth spread through him. The grave that could have been narrow became wide, like a garden. Meanwhile, in the world of the living, Aisha had a dream that very night. She saw her father standing in a bright field, smiling at her. He looked younger, his eyes clear and full of peace. He raised his hand and said, "Do not cry for me, pray for me, and be kind to one another." She woke with tears in her eyes, but with a strange feeling of comfort in her heart. Days passed. The family began to follow the traditions they had known for generations. They gathered each evening to recite Qur'an and make dua for Hassan's soul. Neighbors came with food and condolences. The house, though filled with grief, began to feel lighter, as if Hassan's blessings still lingered there. Each night, Aisha sat by the window, whispering prayers for her father. Sometimes, when she closed her eyes, she felt as though he were near, watching over them. She did not know what was happening in the world beyond, but her faith told her that her father's journey had just begun and that the next 40 days would reveal what comes after death. And in that unseen world, Hassan waited. He felt time differently now. Days and nights had no meaning. He could sense prayers reaching him like ripples in water. Each verse of the Qur'an recited by his family brought light to his resting place. He knew that what happens next would depend on the deeds he had carried with him from the world he left behind. The journey had only begun, and the 40 days would unfold the truth of what comes next. The journey of the soul. The first few days after Hassan's burial passed slowly for his family. The house felt hollow, as if something sacred had been taken from its heart. Yet amid the silence there was a strange peace that seemed to settle over them. Every evening the family gathered to recite the Qur'an and make dua for Hassan's soul. The sound of Aisha's soft recitation filled the air, and even the walls of the house seemed to listen. Mariam kept Hassan's prayer mat neatly folded beside his bed. Every morning she would place a small bowl of dates and a glass of water near it, whispering prayers for his forgiveness. She knew that her husband had been a man of kindness and honesty, and she believed that Allah's mercy would embrace him in the hereafter. Still, she prayed constantly, for every soul needs the prayers of the living. In the unseen world, Hassan was aware of all these prayers. Though he could not see his family as they were, he could feel their love and devotion reaching him like waves of light. The grave that had once felt like a narrow space was now filled with a gentle brightness. A cool breeze passed through, carrying the scent of jasmine, just like the one that grew in his courtyard. Hassan sat peacefully, trying to understand this new existence. There was no hunger, no thirst, no pain. Instead, there was reflection. Memories began to flow before his eyes. His childhood, his youth, the mistakes he had made, and the moments of mercy he had shown. Each memory was like a mirror, showing him the truth of his life. Then 2 radiant figures appeared before him again. Their presence filled the air with awe, yet Hassan felt no fear. One of them spoke, "You have answered rightly. Your Lord is pleased with your faith, and your deeds will now be weighed." Before Hassan appeared a vast scroll, glowing with light. Every action of his life was written upon it. The prayers he had offered, the people he had helped, the times he had forgiven instead of retaliating, and even the moments of regret that had led to repentance. Nothing was missing. He saw the small acts he had forgotten, like giving a coin to a beggar or comforting a child, shining brighter than he expected. But he also saw the times he had failed, moments when he had spoken harshly, when pride had clouded his judgment, when he had delayed helping someone in need. Each of these moments dimmed slightly, casting a shadow on the scroll. Hassan lowered his gaze in shame, whispering, "Forgive me, my lord, for I was weak." A voice, calm and full of mercy, replied, "You repented, and I accepted. My mercy outweighs all." At those words, the shadows faded and the scroll glowed once more. Hassan felt a peace that he could not describe. Meanwhile, in the world of the living, Yusuf began to feel his father's absence in a way that words could not express. He had always looked up to Hassan as his guide, the man who taught him the difference between pride and dignity. Now, without him, Yusuf felt lost. He would sit by the grave every evening, talking to his father as if he could hear him. "I hope I can make you proud, Baba," he would whisper. One night, as he sat under the moonlight at the cemetery, a cool breeze brushed against his face. For a brief moment he felt warmth, as though an unseen hand rested gently on his shoulder. It brought him comfort and strength. He stood up, wiped his tears, and promised himself to live by his father's teachings. Back in the realm beyond, Hassan saw this moment as if watching through a veil of light. He could not speak, but his heart swelled with gratitude. Every time his family prayed, his resting place grew brighter. Every charity they gave in his name became a source of comfort for him. Days passed differently in that world. There was no sunrise or sunset, only states of awareness. Sometimes Hassan felt surrounded by other souls. Some were in peace, some in fear. He heard voices of those who had lived without faith, crying out for another chance. But there were also voices of those who had lived righteously, their words filled with praise and gratitude. Hassan realized then that this place was neither paradise nor punishment. It was a waiting ground, a place between worlds, known as Barzakh. In Barzakh, souls waited for the day of judgment. Some rested in comfort, while others suffered because of their deeds. Hassan thanked Allah for granting him peace. Yet he knew that this peace was not the end. It was a stage in a longer journey, one that would continue beyond time. On the 20th day, Hassan was shown visions of the world he had left behind. He saw his daughter sitting in the courtyard, reciting Surah Yasin for him. He saw his wife giving food to the poor, saying softly, "This is for the soul of my husband." He saw Yusuf standing in prayer, tears in his eyes, asking Allah to unite them in Jannah. Each prayer reached him like a stream of light, easing his soul and expanding his peace. Then one day, the angel who had first questioned him returned. His voice was calm, but carried great power. "Your 40 days among the resting have not yet passed, but your soul must now witness what awaits those who lived by faith." Before Hassan, the world shifted. He saw vast gardens filled with light and beauty, where souls rested in peace, their faces radiant. Birds of every color flew over rivers that shimmered like silver. The air was filled with the sound of remembrance. Hassan felt drawn to it, but the angel raised a hand. "This is not your time yet. You will see more when your appointed days are complete." Then the scene changed. He saw another place, dark, heavy, filled with sorrow. Souls cried out, longing for a second chance to return to the world. Hassan turned away, unable to bear the sight. The angel spoke again. "This is the truth that awaits every soul according to its deeds. You lived with mercy, and mercy shall be shown to you." Back on earth, as the 30th day approached, the family prepared for another gathering. Friends and relatives came to join them in remembrance. The house, once again, filled with the sound of Qur'an recitation and prayers. Aisha looked at the photograph of her father on the wall and smiled softly. She could almost feel his presence, calm and watching over them. That night she dreamt again. She saw her father sitting under a tree in a beautiful garden. He smiled and said, "Your prayers reach me, my daughter. Do not stop. Every verse you recite is like a light where I rest." When she woke, her heart was full of peace. In the unseen world, Hassan sat quietly, remembering his family. He knew that soon his 40 days in Barzakh would be complete. What would come next he did not know, but he trusted the one who had created him. His faith had been his guide in life, and now in death it was his companion. The journey was not yet over. The 40th day was drawing near, and with it would come a revelation that would show Hassan and his family the truth of what comes next. The 40 nights, the days continued to pass quietly in Hassan's home. The sound of life slowly began to return, though it was never quite the same. Mariam had learned to smile again, though her eyes still carried the softness of loss. Aisha kept her father's Qur'an on the small table near his chair, turning its pages every morning before dawn. Yusuf had started visiting the mosque more often, praying with a devotion that had grown deeper since his father's death. By the 35th day, the family felt the weight of the upcoming 40th day. It was a time their elders had always spoken of, a day when the soul's first stage of journey ends and a new phase begins. It was said that during these 40 days, the soul remains aware of the prayers, the tears, and the good deeds performed on its behalf. Whether this was known from revelation or tradition, no one was certain, but the belief brought comfort. Every evening, Aisha gathered the family for Qur'an recitation. The room would fill with the calm rhythm of verses, their meanings sinking into every heart. The neighbors often joined, bringing food and sitting in silence as the words of Allah filled the air. The sound of Surah Yasin echoed softly through the home, bringing light into their sorrow. In the unseen world, Hassan watched all of this with gratitude. Each verse they recited reached him like a lantern, lighting his resting place with a gentle glow. The angels who guarded his grave smiled upon him. One of them said, "The prayers of your family are like gifts that never end. Blessed are those who are remembered with kindness." Hassan bowed his head and whispered, "Alhamdulillah." He felt an endless thankfulness for his family, who kept his name alive in their prayers. The grave around him no longer felt like a place of waiting. It had become a space filled with peace and remembrance. Then, on the night before the 40th day, something changed. Hassan saw a light in the distance, brighter than anything he had seen before. It grew closer, and from it came a voice, gentle yet powerful. "O soul that believed, your 40 nights have passed. Prepare to witness the truth of what comes next." Hassan stood, though he had no body now as he once did. He felt as if he were being lifted, not by wind or hands, but by mercy itself. The light before him expanded, and within it he saw scenes that reflected the destiny of every soul. He first saw a vast garden filled with rivers that shimmered like silver. Trees bore fruits of every kind, and the air was filled with fragrance. Souls rested under the shade, their faces glowing with peace. They were not asleep, but alive in a way that words cannot describe. They spoke softly, remembering the lives they once lived, thankful for the mercy of Allah. Hassan longed to walk among them, but the voice said, "You will enter this place when your Lord commands. For now you are shown this so that you may know his promise is true." Then the light shifted, and Hassan saw another scene. It was a place of darkness, filled with cries and regret. Souls there called out, begging for a chance to return to the world, to pray, to give charity, to seek forgiveness, but there was no return. The realization struck him deeply. He whispered, "My Lord, save my family from such a place. Guide them to the path that leads to your mercy." The voice answered, "Your prayer has been heard." The righteous always wish goodness for those they love. In that moment, Hassan understood the value of every prayer, every small act of kindness, and every moment of repentance. He realized that the 40 days were not only a time for the living to remember the dead, but also a time for the soul to reflect, to understand, and to prepare for the eternal journey ahead. Meanwhile, in the world of the living, the family began preparing for the 40th day. Mariam cleaned the courtyard and placed fresh flowers near Hassan's photograph. Aisha cooked his favorite dish, not out of celebration, but as an act of remembrance. Yusuf invited the imam and neighbors for a special gathering of dua and recitation. That evening, the house was filled with people. The air was warm with the scent of incense, and the soft hum of prayer surrounded every corner. The imam spoke about the mercy of Allah and the journey of the soul after death. He reminded everyone that life is temporary, but the actions we leave behind continue to echo in the unseen world. After the prayer, Aisha stepped outside into the courtyard. The moon shone brightly, and a gentle breeze passed through the leaves of the neem tree. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Baba, may Allah keep you in peace." For a brief moment, she felt something, an invisible calmness, like the warmth of a familiar presence standing beside her. In the world beyond, Hassan heard his daughter's words, and light passed through his heart. And the angel beside him said, "The bond of love and prayer between souls never ends. The living and the dead are connected by remembrance and mercy." As the 40th night deepened, the angel who had guided Hassan through his journey spoke again. "Your time of reflection in Barzakh is complete. From this moment, your soul rests until the day you are called. You have seen the truth, and your faith has protected you. The deeds of your family will continue to reach you, and their prayers will be your light." Hassan bowed in gratitude. "My Lord, you are the most merciful. Forgive my shortcomings and bless my family." A great calm surrounded him. The garden of peace returned, its light brighter than ever. He felt himself sink into rest, not of sleep but of contentment, a peace deeper than any he had known in life. Back on earth, Aisha woke just before dawn. She had dreamt of her father standing at the edge of a beautiful garden. He looked younger, smiling, surrounded by a glow of light. He raised his hand and said only one thing: "Do not stop praying." When she awoke, tears filled her eyes, but her heart was steady. She understood that death was not the end, and that their prayers still reached him. The 40 days had ended, but her faith told her that her father's soul continued in the mercy of the one who never forgets his servants. And so, as the first light of morning spread across the sky, Aisha whispered a final prayer for her father, knowing that beyond the veil of this world, he rested in peace, awaiting the day when all souls would rise again to meet their Lord, the eternal awakening. The 40th day had passed, yet its memory lingered in the hearts of those Hassan left behind. The family had found strength in prayer, in patience, and in the remembrance of Allah. Life slowly returned to its rhythm, but everything carried a deeper meaning now. Every prayer felt heavier with sincerity. Every act of kindness seemed to carry the weight of eternity. Aisha continued to visit her father's resting place every Friday. She would sit quietly, recite Surah Yasin, and whisper prayers for his soul. The breeze would move gently through the graveyard, and though she could not see it, she always felt peace around her, as if her father's spirit was near. Mariam joined her sometimes, holding her tasbih and reciting the names of Allah, her lips moving softly, her heart at ease. Yusuf, who had once been careless with his prayers, had now become a regular at the mosque. The Imam often smiled at him and said, "Your father would be proud of the man you're becoming." Yusuf would lower his gaze and reply, "I only want to meet him again in Jannah, where no goodbyes exist." In the unseen world, Hassan's soul rested in a place known as Barzakh, the realm between life and resurrection. Time there did not move as it did on earth. Moments could feel like centuries, and centuries could feel like moments. Yet Hassan's heart was content. He had seen what lies ahead for the righteous and had been comforted by Allah's mercy. The angels visited him from time to time, bringing him news of his family's prayers and the good deeds they performed in his name. Each time someone gave charity for him, he felt his resting place grow brighter. Each time his name was mentioned in dua, peace surrounded him like a warm cloak. The Prophet Muhammad had said, when a person dies, his deeds come to an end except for 3: ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge, or a righteous child who prays for him. Hassan now understood the truth of these words more deeply than ever. One evening, as the stars shimmered above the graveyard, something stirred in the unseen world. A call spread through the realm of souls, a call that had not been heard since time began. Hassan looked around as light rippled through the horizon of Barzakh. The angel who had accompanied him appeared once again, his face radiant. "The time of waiting draws near its end," the angel said. "The trumpet of Israfil is preparing to sound. The promise of resurrection will soon unfold." Hassan felt awe and fear mingle within him. He asked, "Is this the moment of the great awakening?" The angel nodded. "It is near, though only Allah knows the hour. But the signs are appearing even in the world you left behind. The final events are beginning, and soon every soul will rise for the day of judgment." Hassan bowed his head, his heart trembling with remembrance. "My Lord, forgive me and my family. Let us rise among those who are shown mercy." On earth, strange events began to unfold. Aisha noticed how people spoke of calamities, of strange signs in the skies, of the earth trembling in unexpected places. But she did not allow fear to consume her. Instead, she turned more sincerely to her prayers, remembering her father's words from the dream, "Do not stop praying." One night, she dreamt again. She stood in a vast plain, the sky blazing with light. Countless souls surrounded her, rising from the earth as though awakened from deep sleep. In the distance, she saw her father, his face calm and filled with peace. He reached out his hand and said, "The promise has come true." A trumpet sounded, a sound so powerful it shook every corner of existence. Mountains crumbled, oceans roared, and the heavens split with divine command. Hassan felt his soul lifted by a force beyond comprehension. The angel said, "Rise, for your Lord calls you." In an instant he found himself standing again, clothed in light, aware of every breath, every moment. Around him stood countless others, each one rising from their graves, their faces reflecting the truth of their deeds. Some were radiant with joy, others bowed with regret. The earth had become a plain of gathering, endless and vast. Then came the second call. The sky opened, and from it descended the angels, ranks upon ranks, filling the heavens with brilliance. The throne of Allah was above them, veiled in majesty beyond imagination. Every soul stood silent, waiting for judgment. Hassan felt no fear, only awe. His life, his death, his 40 days, and the peace of Barzakh had led to this moment. He looked around and saw Maryam, Aisha, and Yusuf, their faces shining with faith. They recognized one another, not through sight alone, but through the connection of their hearts. They had remained steadfast in belief, and now they stood together once again. The book of deeds was brought forth, and every soul was called to account. Hassan's record was placed in his right hand. His eyes filled with tears as he whispered, "All praise is due to Allah, who has fulfilled his promise." Around him, he saw those who had lived with sincerity and kindness being led toward gardens beneath which rivers flowed. Their hearts at peace, the angel who had guided Hassan from the moment of his death now stood beside him again. "You have completed your journey," he said. "This is what was promised to those who believed and did righteous deeds. Enter now in peace." As Hassan stepped forward, he saw before him the same garden he had once glimpsed in Barzakh, but now it was alive with sound and light, with rivers of sweetness and trees that never withered. He saw others who had lived for Allah's sake, greeting one another with peace. He saw the Prophet at a distance, his face radiant with mercy, and the believers surrounding him like stars. Hassan turned to see his family entering behind him. Maryam smiled, her eyes filled with tears of joy. Aisha and Yusuf followed, their hearts overflowing with gratitude. The pain of separation, the weight of loss, and the passage of time, all had dissolved in the eternal light of Allah's mercy. A voice filled the heavens, gentle and mighty. "O my servants, no fear shall be upon you this day, nor shall you grieve. Enter my paradise for what you used to do." Hassan bowed deeply, his soul trembling with gratitude. "My Lord, you are the most forgiving, the most merciful. You guided us when we were lost, comforted us in death, and reunited us in your eternal home." And thus, the story of life, death, and what follows reached its true conclusion. Not an ending, but a beginning beyond all beginnings. For those who believe, death is not the final curtain. It is the doorway to the eternal truth promised by Allah, where mercy has no end and peace is everlasting. And in that eternal light, Hassan's soul finally found its home.